questions? Okay. Here we go. And you all have the link to the website in the chat. Do you all have access to the website?
When
You
it
found
says
it,
middle school,
dashboard?
Sorry, does that include K through 8 or only traditional middle school?
No, I am not the, Ethan is our flow expert.
I believe we're talking traditional middle schools. Let's go with that. Unless you want to answer a seventh question too.
Are we answering these questions for ourselves? Are we putting them in the chat? What are we supposed to?
I think just share them out. And we have,
Yeah. Are we planning on maybe going through them one by one, just with the answers?
Yeah.
and we have a note taker in here with us who is, yes, Elisa, fantastic. Okay. So has anyone found number one?
Lane
Okay,
seems to be the only one.
we have agreement on that.
That is correct.
All right, how about number two?
Got Lane on that one as well.
Also correct. With 14.7, I believe, percentage Black and Native students there.
14.7.
You guys are so far knocking this out of the park.
How about number three?
Well, so then number three, we can't look at it if it's only digested by the middle schools only. We will have to do K-8 since Harrison Park is a K-8.
You can do K-8. You would select K-8 and then you would select the grade group would be the middle school because that would be the 6-8. So you'd be looking at just the 6-8 contingent of the K-8.
Okay, gotcha.
Mm-hmm. Those kids, they definitely throw you a little bit of a curveball there.
So it looks like it's at 23% utilization for 205 students.
It is 261 at 29%. Making sure that we're looking at the 2021, 2022 enrollment, not the forecast from 2025. Anyone get number 4? Marnie, sorry, I don't mean to step on your toes here.
Taking a water break. That's good.
Which school's 6-8 grade group has the highest percentage of ELL students?
I think it's Lane.
It would be, but Harrison Park has a little bit higher, and they have with their 6-8 program, grade group rather. So
Next one.
Sorry, you said that Harrison Park has a higher ELL student percentage?
their 6-8 grade group does, yes, than the other 6-8 grade groups.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
How are you finding this? Is it easy to navigate? or-
How do you delineate 6-8 compared to K8 with Harrison Park?
So with K8, you would have the selecting the whole school of Harrison Park, and then on the filter just to the right, you will have the grade group, which is elementary school, K5, or middle school, 6-8. Harrison Park comprises of both of those. So by selecting just one or the other, you're breaking them out, slicing and dicing them. Yeah.
Is that because of the Chinese immersion program? Is it taking any Chinese native students account as part of the ELL population?
In just the neighborhood program, it would be taking anyone who's in the neighborhood program. So that would not include anyone enrolled in the Chinese DLI.
And Chinese DLI at Harrison Park is only up to grade 4 or grade 5 this year, I think.
I think I'm doing something wrong because I only got 15.5% for Harrison Park.
That's
For
exactly
ELL.
right. For ELL. Yep. No, you're doing
Isn't,
nothing.
isn't Lane at like 40, almost 47% then?
In the Russian DLI program.
Okay.
Yes,
But
in
the
Russian.
question,
Oh, it's a
they wrote
neighborhood
really
program.
tricky
That's the
questions.
piece I missed. Okay, thank you. That's the one line I missed. Thank you.
Promise these questions were not created, well, actually kind of they were created to stump, but also to teach. So at number 5, which elementary schools fall below the 270 minimum enrollment goal for the 2025-2026 forecast? I'll give you a hint. There are, I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them.
Preston, Marysville,
Hmm?
Vestal, Whitman, Woodmere.
Whitmere. Did we say Whitman?
Yeah,
Okay, good. I can. All right. Yep, that's those 5.
Is Sunnyside technically in that as well?
Let's
Oh,
look
sorry. I
at-
guess I clicked on the wrong year. No, I got the right year.
I got 271 for them on my filters.
Okay,
Just made it.
just made it.
271. Yeah, just made it. Okay, number 6. Which elementary school has the highest whole school direct certification rate?
I don't have the answer to that question, but I cannot link to the dashboard. I got in the room late, and so I
Oh.
don't know if I missed something about how, but
Oh.
the hyperlink isn't working when I look on the meeting materials for me.
It looks like it was just dropped in the chat.
Oh, thank you, whoever put that on there.
Sorry about that.
Park. Number 6,
Did we have an answer?
Harrison Park.
Kelly?
Mm-mm.
No.
So remember when we're looking at direct certification for the whole school, there's, it's done by program, but if you want to find the whole school, you hover over the number, and it will tell you what it is for the whole school rather than just that program. So it's displaying here initially by program, but then it's displayed as the whole school. So kind of the average of all of that when you hover over it.
So is it Woodmere then?
It is Woodmere.
I got one right.
Now I'm realizing we should have kept score and doled out prizes, although.
Everyone go to your front door.
Yeah.
Uh,
Somebody with a giant check there.
so how did that feel? Was that pretty easy to maneuver and get yourself around and figure it out? Yeah, this is great that they're showing us how to do this. So should we move on to the next 3? We'll be in here until 7:25, so we have just 8 more minutes. Oh. Did any of these questions surprise you? Apart from them maybe being a little tricky.
Guess, sorry, I would wonder what the average person might do with this data. I think it's fantastic, and it's great that all of this information is available, and I think it's presented in a way that makes it really user-friendly. But I'm wondering, and it's great that it's available, but I'm just wondering what would the average person use this data for? Like, I'm an engineer, so I'm trying to think, how would I use this data, to like see patterns and those kinds of things. But is there some kind of like statistical analysis that will be run for people to balance the enrollments out, but also within, there's a lot of constraints, right? Like a mile from a house, but then also enrollment balances. Not a very good question.
I'm gonna let Judy, do you want to answer this?
I know, I think it's a great question. And it leads me to a couple of thoughts. So the first is that in a few weeks, you're going to start seeing plans for changing these schools, for shifting enrollment by program moves, boundary changes, whole feeder pattern moves. And this baseline is the groundwork for what you're going to be looking at next. So getting familiar with it now, practicing using the tool will be beneficial when we're starting to look at and talk about changes. When we get to the point that we're actually talking about things that might change and we're ready to engage the broad community about it, we will package this information in sort of more accessible ways, so that people don't have to self-study and learn this in order to participate in the process. And there are always going to be people who want to go deeper, who want to ask, like, poke, prod, and look for additional information, and who want to be a part of the problem solving. And having a tool like this available actually helps people who want to be a part of it find a way to bring information and ideas forward that we may not have considered. So that's a little bit about why this information is here and how it could be useful.
Thank you. Yeah, hopefully there's a secret master statistician in our area that will be able to solve all the problems.
Right,
So-
well, it's a baseline assessment, right? So it says on the top, so not a lot of this data point plus this data point equals this finding, but more like the step before that for all us to peruse. I might answer your question by saying, if you wanted to tell a story about a particular facility, you could probably use a fair amount of this data to tell individual stories based on the fact that this is essentially everything posted at once. And the more stories we build, that will help inform at least, maybe not the changes, but what we can relay and whatnot. That's all.
I wanted to highlight one thing that wasn't really in the practice questions, but I found extremely useful and was kind of an outlying question for me already, which was the student density maps. I thought that was answered just a lot of questions that I had, and it's specifically more looking at DLI programs, but it helped me process things a lot. So I just wanted to point that out.
Thank you. Are there any other thoughts? Did your perspective shift? We just have a few more minutes. Or are there any concerns? Is there something you wish you saw?
I think one of the concerns that I have is that taking from phase 1 and looking at phase 2, is that all these numbers are students, and this is data, these are numbers. It doesn't take into account the communities that are developed, the connections that the students have with schools and neighborhood and those affinity groups, and like it doesn't bring that lens to all of that. And I want to make sure that we engage both of those pieces, because as we look at the numbers, it's really easy to say, well, let's they have 100 more students, let's shift them over here, but we don't know the impact that has to the community. And the first 2 meetings we had before summer talked a lot about the individual pieces, and we got to learn about the schools, we got to hear from the principals and talk to them about some of the nuances that the numbers don't show us. So I just want to make sure that this is a piece of the puzzle, but not the only thing we take into consideration.
Mm-hmm. We will see a little bit more of that tonight too.
Yeah, that's really well said, Beth, and that's why and you can hold us, help us do this well, hold us accountable for this, but we really need this balance of data, but also perspective, stories, and everything here. Hopefully, there are going to be important opportunities to test it, validate it, and really make it feel real.
I think that's the perfect place for me to close the breakout rooms. We'll go back to the big room and talk about it a little bit more. I'll see you out there. Actually, I think we'll have 10 seconds.
That teleportation is always joyful, isn't it?
Can I just say while we're coming back, like Jed, this dashboard is super helpful, and I think a big improvement over some of the stuff we had access to in phase 1. So great job.
Thanks to the team.
Yeah.